For a West Michigan family, the 34-year search was all-consuming. How could a teenage girl just disappear? Why weren't police helping? And for police 1,000 miles away in Louisiana, the 34-year search to identify the skeletal remains of a murdered girl seemed hopeless. Was anyone looking for her?
The unidentified remains became known as Bossier Doe. Tonight, we will take you to Louisiana for an unprecedented look inside the investigation that led police to finally identify Bossier Doe as Carol Ann Cole, that missing teen from Kalamazoo. It's a murder that could be closer to being solved after Target 8's interview with a key witness. Target 8 investigator Ken Kolker has tonight's story. Ken?
Yeah, it's a missing persons case that could have been solved decades ago if not for mistakes by a medical examiner and frustrating roadblocks put up by some of the very police agencies that were supposed to help. It was finally solved thanks to equal parts persistence and equal parts luck, or perhaps, as some of the key players believe, providence.
I believe that God wanted this child to be identified. It was time for her to have a name.
We will take you to where she was found.
We're looking at each other and I said, it's a body. It's a body.
Tell you how an FBI profiler's bad theory sent detectives down the wrong path for years.
He felt like it was some type of Native American ritual.
Take you to the Louisiana lab that rebuilt her face.
For this to all fall into place, it's almost a miracle. Almost a miracle.
Then there are the miracle workers, a friend who refused to give up, an obsessive detective who saw Facebook as her last chance, and a police dispatcher who, while sick at home, did something in 7 hours that nobody could do in 34 years. Put a name to a face using a phone app.
I sat up in bed and I don't know why, and I said, I'm gonna solve this.
Growing up near Kalamazoo, Carol Ann Cole was a big sister who helped keep her little sister Jeannie out of trouble. They played lots of rummy and cat's cradle, watched Little House on the Prairie.
She was in love with Sean Cassidy. Oh my God, she joined the Sean Cassidy fan club. She just thought she was top notch.
Then in 1979, Carol Ann, who was 15 at the time, moved to San Antonio, Texas with her mom. Her sister had to stay behind in Kalamazoo with their grandmother.
I know she didn't want to leave me forever. We were too close. We were never apart as kids, up until that day.
Texas wasn't good for Carol Ann, who kept running away from her mom before landing in a home for troubled girls in Austin. Even after running away from that home, though, Carol Ann kept calling and writing her grandmother and sister. The last call came from a home in Shreveport in December 1980.
They had taken her in and she was babysitting, and then one day she just left and never returned.
The calls and letters stopped. Her grandma called police in Texas and all around Shreveport, Louisiana, even the Bossier Parish Sheriff's Department.
She could never get anybody just to take initial report and get her placed in NCIC, which would have started the ball rolling a long time ago.
Unlike other missing people, Carol Ann Cole's name never made it into the National Crime Information Center's database.
She was so sad about it. I just didn't want her to be sad anymore.
It's almost like Patty Thorington was planted in Jeannie Phelps' life for one purpose. She was 15 without a place to stay when Jeannie took her in years ago.
And I just don't think I wanted her to be lost. Yeah. You know, my sister was lost, so I don't want to see somebody else get lost.
Aww. I love you.
Thorington vowed to find her friend's long-lost sister. Maybe Craigslist could help. After the break, a police dispatcher 1,000 miles away makes a match.
I looked at that and I said, that's her.
So as a woman in Kalamazoo searched for her long-lost sister, police in Bossier Parish, Louisiana had their own mystery. Who was this girl who had been stabbed 9 times?
Why, more than 30 years later, did the body still not have a name? Our Target 8 investigation continues.
Okay, let's start it. Page number 1. Page number 1 says, this person found him. Let's go find those people.
Lieutenant Shannon Mack reopened the cold case last June.
She's a human being and nobody deserves to be forgotten.
This is where John Chason's kids discovered the body in January 1981, after he had taken them hunting around the corner from where they lived.
We weren't too far into the woods when we stumbled upon her.
A skeleton, partially covered with leaves. Frances Aquan was 13 at the time.
We panicked not knowing what it was, screaming. I'm still confused. Where's my dad? Looking back, he's still standing on the road looking at us.
Her father was not a person of interest. His daughter said police didn't talk to her. Detectives tried to match the bones with names. On their list of possibles, Carol Ann Cole, a 17-year-old Kalamazoo girl who had disappeared from nearby Shreveport. Her grandmother had called Bossier Parish deputies 2 weeks before the body was found. Had they seen her? It's still not clear why the medical examiner ruled her out. He is dead and his records burned in a fire. Then there was the FBI profiler who said evidence suggested she was Native American and killed in a ritual. That evidence, the kitchen knife apparently used to kill her, was left nearby, stuck in the ground, covered by a towel.
So the FBI profiler thought that was burying the hatchet.
That's pretty much where it stood when Lieutenant Mack picked up the case, came up with the name Bossier Doe, and in early February of this year, created a Facebook page. Did you give it any chance? I mean, really?
No.
I mean, was this like a Hail Mary pass or something?
It was just, let's think outside the box.
She used an image from the Faces Lab at Louisiana State University, which for the first time had recreated a face using only a photograph of the skull and Photoshop, not the skull itself.
I almost feel like I know her, and I know that might sound funny to some people, but the early cases really stick in your mind.
They relied on science, specific measurements for the thickness of skin.
Between your eyes, it's about 4 millimeters thick.
A formula to rebuild her nose.
How it came so close to Miss Cole is truly remarkable. I mean, this has never happened before, for it to come that close.
Which left her wondering, how could this body remain nameless for so long?
Think about, where are the family members for this person? Are family members still alive? Are family members trying to find her?
They were, with help from family friend Patty Thorington. Last November, she posted a Craigslist ad with Carol Cole's photograph anywhere she thought the teen would have been, including the Shreveport area. But would anyone ever connect that Craigslist ad with that Facebook page? That page created by the Bossier cop? That page with that lifelike composite?
911, do you have an emergency?
In February, Bossier Parish 911 dispatcher Linda Erickson was home with bronchitis, not able to sleep. First, she noticed that new Facebook page.
What struck me the most about this story was her age, and that someone did this horrible thing, and that nobody knew who she was.
7 hours later, she woke and checked Craigslist, as she did most days. And there was this ad with a picture of Carol Ann Cole, a name she had never heard, with a face that looked a little familiar.
So in my phone, I had both separate pictures, and I was flipping back and forth.
She downloaded an app that merges photographs.
When I did that, I knew. I said, that's her. I just looked at her, It was kind of overwhelming, honestly.
The news spread quickly to Carol Ann's sister and her friend. DNA confirmed Carol Ann was Bossier Doe.
She was loved as Bossier Doe for 35 years. And they didn't even know who she was.
Still, Patty feared that knowing the truth, that Carol Ann had been murdered, might be worse.
Do you think it was worse for you, though, Jeannie? Or?
No. No, it wasn't worse. You did the right thing.
Now, John Chason, whose daughter found the body, has become a focus of that murder investigation. We have an interactive timeline of this case on woodtv.com. Tomorrow morning on Daybreak, we find out why it took 34 years to list Carol Ann Cole as missing.
Ken, what strikes you in this story is that time passes, 34 years passed. The people on both sides of this always wondered, what happened and who was this?
Right. Yeah, it was interesting how they had these parallel things going on, 1,000 miles apart, and neither one knew the other one was working on it.
It really is.
Yeah, it's just
and to
amazing.
see it all just unfold in those two stories of yours is just incredible, because so many questions had come up in just those few times we've been able to piece this story together. Unbelievable, incredible
Ken.
work.
Thank you.